Grand Prix Legends, a sim racing legend in its own right. The title is fast approaching 30 years old, which sounds wild, and it especially does for me because it's the first time on this channel I'm talking about a game that's actually older than I am. So in this video, we're going to be talking about this legendary title, we're going to be talking about how it stacks up today, and we're going to be talking about some of the fantastic mods that mean that you can still enjoy it in its fullest 30 years on. Now, lots of people might be asking, what is Grand Prix Legends? After all, it is nearly 30 years old as a game. They might be aware of the Grand Prix Legends series on iRacing, which uses the Lotus 49. They might also be aware of the Assetto Corsa stuff with the Lotus 49, which includes something that is actually part of Grand Prix Legends. The Lotus 49 and the historic Monza. This game faithfully recreates a 1967 F1 season. It has all of the tracks and it has the cars as well. It also, for the time, has quite a detailed handling model which has been retrofitted and upgraded for modern machines. But what it does is it gives you that full-on experience. There is a championship mode, there are all of the tracks, and actually, this is the game that, much like RBR, anybody who wishes to pick it up can pick it up for free at the moment as well. Follow the links in the description down below for the easy install guide, as well as people who've helped set it up. I'll talk about them a bit later on as well. And you too can enjoy Grand Prix Legends. I have to say, as somebody who is experienced in installing old games, especially abandonware games, onto my computer, it did actually catch me out a couple of times when I was booting up the game to make sure that everything was actually working. I followed two particular guides that talked about it on YouTube, in addition to the guides that you can easily find online. A casual racer was talking about his first experience with the CSL-DD using Grand Prix Legends, and that was actually quite helpful in understanding it. Perhaps one of the people who is unsurprising for me to be referring to in this video as well is GP Laps. It's got a 43-minute video which is all about setting up the title in 2022. I used some elements of it to help me troubleshoot when all of a sudden my wheel wasn't working. But in addition to all of that, you'll find other bits that I used linked down below as well. The gplworld.de, which is the easy installation guide where you can pick up all the resources you need to, as well as the likes of the SRMZ, the fast lane, and GPL add-ons, the fast lane, which were both really helpful for me in terms of picking up different mods and different plugins to use as well, because the modding scene is actually quite impressive. Now, once I'd downloaded everything, that is the GPL itself, as well as the GPL PS GPL installer 1.08, and then I'd uninstalled my first Grand Prix Legends install because I recognised it was broken unless I installed it directly from the 1.08 installer. I got to the track and I decided the first thing I was going to do was the very first scenario, which is going into a training session, a practice session with just myself on the track, driving a Lotus around Kyalami. Now, I forgot the fact that Kyalami back then was very different to the Kyalami of today. It was shorter, there were less turns, and it was also run in reverse with the start line on the back half of the track. Noticeably, I did go straight on at the first corner, and multiple times. But after a while I started to remember the Lotus 49 is one of the trickiest cars to drive in iRacing, and once I started driving like I do in iRacing, things started to come together a lot better. Now, I'm not good at playing Grand Prix Legends, and actually I would probably say that this is the most difficult sim racing title that I've ever driven. And I genuinely believe that. I think it's hard to come close to it. Now, that is because of the nature of these cars. Bearing in mind that these are cars that were driven with a 320mm wheel and didn't have power steering in the 60s. Yes, they were essentially bathtubs filled with petrol. But the problem with a bathtub filled with petrol is that it doesn't come with power steering. It doesn't come with intense hydraulics. It doesn't come with the things that make an F1 car an F1 car. And it means that there's a certain skill set to driving it that takes hours and hours and hours of practicing. Hours and hours that I didn't have. So, yeah, I struggled. Even on the novice difficulty. God forbid I turned up the difficulty and allowed myself to have damage. I mean, it was bad enough when I was going around Spa by myself. I still managed to kill my driver just near the end of a lap. Now, I will quickly mention some of the snags I ran into whilst I was running Grand Prix Legends. One of them was to do with my wheel. Initially, everything was being assigned to my shifter. That is, accelerate, brake, clutch, steering, reverse, everything was being bound to my H shifter. So I had to unplug everything at first to see if it would route to my wheel, and it didn't. The way around it was I went to GPL Shift and I downloaded that, and you can edit it with the various different lines of code. I put in the number for the USB socket that my wheel was on, and everything worked fine in the end. I was able to run everything except I didn't end up running with my shifter. Now, part of that was because I was on novice. It seemed to just lock me onto automatic gearbox on novice. And I don't think it necessarily took away from my immersion. I believe there are mods that allow you to have a separate shifter to running the wheel. But I didn't think about setting it up. The other thing that was an issue was that the menu screens are at a different resolution. I couldn't find a fix for this. There probably is a fix if I spent more time working it out. But all it meant was when I had the F1 on in the background, because I was doing this whilst watching some F1, it kept on switching it off of my secondary monitor because of the way that the window kept on changing resolution and what it was doing to the monitor. It meant that for whatever reason I wasn't able to actually watch everything that was on my side monitor. Anything that was on the primary was working fine. Anything that was on a different one would jump around. But overall, I think the main thing that people are coming here looking for is, should I play Grand Prix Legends today? And I would say yes. I would say it's definitely worth a go. Now, it's much easier compared to some of the other titles that I look at because of the fact that it's free. You don't have to spend any money. You do have to spend some time. But if you follow the guide, and despite my best efforts to try and disprove it, it is actually idiot-proof, you should be able to install it in a few minutes. And within then, you can jump in and try it out. Now, you will probably have to do some troubleshooting early on. You may need to jump into JSON files or INI files and go, okay, this thing isn't working. But unless you try and do what I do and just go, okay, I downloaded the file, everything should work, which is to say, not actually read the instructions, it should work. And you should be able to get it to work out of the box. The main problem I had starting off was I didn't follow the instructions. I was like, okay, I downloaded the ISO, that's everything, it's going to run. No, I need to download a separate installer, because that's the thing that actually makes it work. But I had a lot of fun with it. I'm bad at it, but I had a lot of fun with it. And now that I have it installed, I don't really need to uninstall it, because it's only a couple of gigabytes. Bearing in mind that to install the cards and tracks of equivalent in iRacing, and iRacing doesn't have all of them, bear in mind, we're talking probably about 10 times that. Remember, iRacing only has one car and it has maybe half the tracks, but even then, it's modern scans. The closest that you really get is being able to run a similar kind of layout for Mexico or Silverstone or Monza on modern day scans. which isn't really that accurate. So that's Grand Prix Legends, a free for you and free for me sim racing title from years gone by that, thanks to a loving community, is still kept alive by mods, and the mods are amazing for it. I didn't get a chance to properly try it out, might do it for a future video, but you can find other historic F1 mods, you can find historic sports car mods, you can even find things that include stuff that go up to the present day. They add cars or tracks or just reskin things, just for that extra layer of immersion. And for a game that is so small in size, generally quite easy to set up, it's a lot of fun. So thank you so much for watching and joining, folks. I hope that I've pointed out a new favourite sim racing title for you, or if you're familiar with Grand Prix Legends, giving you a little trip down memory lane. I hope to see you around soon for more. I'm doing some things in the next couple of weeks, talk about new features in current sim racing titles, but if you have any suggestions on something that you'd like me to have a look at, do let me know in the comment section down below. Until then, if you do want to stick around for daily shorts and weekly videos, hit the subscribe button. But until next time, it's bye-bye for now.